Hey Dragonfly Swarm. So, Water Dude Whale Summoner of Slightly Electro Destruction aka Childe is getting a second rerun whilst Ganyu and Albedo are starving for their first rerun, and it's been about a year. Yeah, Childe is a 5-star Hydro bow user who doesn't actually use a bow ironically, but he's actually not a new character, and while I usually only do these analysis videos on new characters, I figured it would be really worth examining the situation that Childe is in and why MihoYo has chosen to make him the first character with multiple rerun banners. Because there's actually a few reasons I have in mind that involve him becoming much more powerful as a character than he's ever been before. So Childe has a pretty unique kit in which he technically augments his attacks with his elemental skill, infusing them with Hydro and turning him into a very fast-paced melee fighter. As I said, he doesn't use a bow. Depending on how long you hold this ability, the cooldown can reach up to 45 seconds, so you need to manage it correctly. His burst deals massive slash damage, more potent in melee form, as well as an interesting means of extra damage plus Hydro application via the Riptide marks he applies to enemies during combat. And although his kit seems a little more confusing than other DPS characters, it's really not. The general idea is that you spend a little time on field with his melee stance, not too long, otherwise his cooldown will be up longer than the time between Ganyu reruns. But after a few seconds of field time, you use his burst to deal massive damage and trigger any Riptide marks you applied, and then swap off. Which actually, weirdly enough, makes him a pretty not selfish main DPS. He's very rotation focused and as such fits really nicely onto fast-paced teams like the national team, specifically because of his quick field time and high efficiency Hydro application. So what we know about Childe currently is essentially that he's an extremely flexible and versatile character with a fast-paced playstyle and a habit of having reruns. But why a second rerun? Well, there seems to be more to it than what we've all been seeing it for. To start this all off, Genshin Impact's environment is constantly changing. There's always new things happening to the game that influences the viability of characters, and in Childe's case, we actually already know about a lot of it, starting with his element. As a Hydro user, Childe is wildly out of his element, no pun intended, being a main DPS in an element that's primarily known for healing. And speaking of healing has become a huge topic recently, given the new corrosion mechanic and upcoming content that'll force players to focus on not neglecting their healers. And the majority of healers, we can assume, will come from the Hydro element, which would allow Childe to pair with them and obtain Hydro resonance, which boosts healing. But it's more than just healing on its own, because otherwise I wouldn't even make this video. It's about the healers. Recently, we've seen a weird new type of character playstyle with Raiden and Kokomi in which they're not main DPS characters, but they do require actual field time to pull off their kit's full potential, which for DPS like Childe isn't a problem at all, because he needs downtime. He needs to be able to rely on other teammates to take the field to do damage and heal while he's off field and recovering his rotation. So it's kind of my assumption that they're trying to create new characters that make healing and shielding and utility a more engaging character playstyle, aka making utility characters like Kokomi that require field time. And for DPS characters like Hu Tao, Childe, Yoimiya, and Eula, who all require rotations when their main damage is on downtime, this is a dream. It's a new way of team building that allows these types of DPS characters to keep up the consistent team damage output without sacrificing efficiency and rotations while their damage is down. And obviously we have other types of main DPS like Ganyu and Keqing and Ayaka who generally don't have much downtime and therefore benefit from more selfish on-field playstyles. Characters like these are in no way unviable because there's already a bunch of off-field healers and sub-DPS in the game that support selfish DPS teams, but for characters like Childe, we've never seen utility characters as engaging and fulfilling to the team as Raiden and Kokomi are. They both have good on-field time in which they provide a lot to their entire team without disrupting the team's rotations, and like I said, I'm assuming this is the beginning of a long line of utility characters that'll perform this way so that Childe and other more dependent main DPS characters can thrive even more. So on to my general conclusion right now. Is Childe worth pulling for a third time? Unfortunately, yeah. I honestly kinda think he is. I feel like MihoYo is doing the whole second rerun thing because they recognize that Kokomi and Raiden are the beginning of a long line of characters that perform extremely well with main DPS like Childe, Hu Tao, Yoimiya, Eula, etc. Main DPS characters that require a solid team to output damage and utility when they themselves are off-field. And that's not even taking into account all the new synergies that Childe has, what with characters like Toma coming out, new weapons specifically made for Childe such as the Polar Star, and much more upcoming content that MihoYo is making specifically to sell Childe as hard as possible during his second rerun. But don't let that last part downplay all of my other notes. There's seriously a new playstyle with these recent utility characters that heavily supports characters like Childe, and I think there's going to be a lot more of these utility characters in the future. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video or it helped you in any way, feel free to subscribe or join my Discord server or follow my Twitch because I stream almost every night at 7 PM EST. Alright, I'm gonna go prepare for Childe on my free-to-play account because I pulled a rust bow. Who would have thought? Who would have thought?